going to talk about handling marital problems when our kids are around or living with us at home. Every marriage has its problems and its challenges. There is no such thing as a marriage with no arguments, no problems, no challenges, no fights. So the thing is, we want to know to what extent this is affecting our children. How can we make it not a harmful experience for them, not something that would affect their perception of relationships, would not stress them out? How can we make it civil and make it learn to fight in a healthy way, especially when our children are around? So let me start by telling you that kids are very sensitive to the fights of their parents. Sometimes when I talk to parents and they tell me, well, they don't notice that we're fighting, they got used to it. Well, sometimes they have to act that they got used to it because it has become very stressful when they have been around the fights for so long. But what we actually know is that research tells us that a baby who's 6 months old is actually sensitive to the tone of voice between the parents, like when the parents are fighting and he still cannot understand anything that is being said, but he or she are very sensitive to the tone. If they feel that the tone has fighting or is very sharp, this would actually affect their blood pressure. It rises just because of the stress they are getting because parents are fighting around them. And this does not stop as the kids grow up. Actually, when I work with teenagers or even beyond, and they talk about how much the problems at home are affecting them, they're sometimes in their 20s and 30s, and they say that when I hear my parents fighting, it still stresses me out just like it used to be when I was a kid. I remember how scared I was, I remember how worried I was, I remember how responsible I felt, and it was very, very stressful about me. So it really affects the child. So we're not talking about just arguing or having different points of view or having different opinions. We're talking about showing disrespect, criticizing, hurting the spouse in any way, physically or emotionally. This kind of behavior has very negative effects on the psychology of our children, and they usually have a sense of guilt about it. For some reason, kids tend to translate anything that's happening between the parents that they are part of it. They also have a very negative idea about relationships. Like, as we mentioned before, kids create templates about relationships from what they see at home. So they start getting very bad ideas about marriage that can last with them and affect their relationships all their lives. So how can we handle fights? Are we supposed to hide all fights? Are we supposed not to fight at all or argue at all in front of our children? Well, that would also be unrealistic because it would be very hard if they're living with us in the same house, and at the same time we might be sending a negative idea about relationships, that they need to be peaceful 100% of the time, and then when they come to face real relationships in life, they wouldn't have learned the skills of conflict resolution and arguing with someone and expressing your feelings when you're not feeling okay with something, setting boundaries. So the thing is, we want to learn to argue in a respectful way, to have our differences in a way that can teach them how to set boundaries, how to be respectful, how to solve our problems. So how can we do that? First of all, we need to model having a good conversation, to talk with respect, to know our limits, to set a ceiling for where any conversation can go in front of the kids. We might need to agree on topics that we never discuss in front of them, like maybe something around sensitive topics, maybe something around the way we raise them. Maybe this is something we need to discuss between us two, and then rather than discussing it in front of them, because this might be a little confusing for them. So we also want to focus on problem solving. We want to focus on expressing our needs. We want to focus on asking for what we want. We want to focus on solving the problem rather than focusing on blame. If someone of the two spouses starts blaming the other one, most probably the other one is going to go defensive and the conversation wouldn't be very helpful. If we find that the conversation is generally going into a difficult place or someone is starting to feel really angry, it would be a good idea to suggest stopping the conversation now, and maybe we can try to fix it at other time and discuss it another time when we are calmer. And this is another good thing for the kids to learn, that when you feel that you're angry or that your feelings are getting out of control, you know how to manage them and handle them in a positive way, and then you get back to the topic and discuss it in a healthier way. So, and this would require the other spouse to respond to this and agree that they will discuss it at another time. And it would be a good idea to assure the kids that things are going fine, or that we will be able to handle things. They are usually very worried. A lot of the time they don't express their worry, but they would be very worried about what's going to happen with this fight. So you need to assure them, don't worry, me and your dad are going to handle this, or me and your mother, we're going to solve this. And if they see the fight, they also need to see how things are getting resolved, because sometimes they only see the fights and then the very next day, after we've talked at night, after they slept or something, they see us dealing with each other like nothing has happened. So it might be a good idea to sometimes, they don't have to be there, but they see that we're gonna discuss things now, or me and your mom are gonna have a talk. Or sometimes if someone had been hurtful in any way or made the other person upset, it would be nice to see how we can make things up for the other person. So it would be nice that they see us bringing flowers, apologizing, doing something kind for the other person. We would also, what I would really request, and this is very, very critical and important, we don't want to involve the kids in fights in any way, whether while they're happening or talking to them after that. See what your father have done. Do you know what your mother is doing to me? I want you to talk to your father about whatever. This puts the kid in a very, very stressful situation. It gives them a very big responsibility that they are not ready to and might affect them in very negative ways. And for some reason, they feel like they need to choose a side to be on, which is very hard for the kid. It's very hard for them to choose if I should be close to my mother or father, if I should be on the side of my mother or father. It's a very stressful situation, and sometimes it lives with them for a very long time. Let's try to show them the real meaning of marriage, the rahmah and mercy that can help us have a peaceful life at home, the kindness that we can bring by understanding each other, listening to each other, helping out each other. When someone is very angry, the other might be the responsible one at this moment to calm things down, and then we switch at other times. Let's show it as cooperation and a place where we get to be calm and solve our problems and nourish our kids. And the last thing I would like to say, that marital problems have solutions. So if things have been not going well for a very long time, fights have been repetitive and we've been unable to solve it, please take the chance of getting help or getting to marriage counseling or asking someone to help you out, because it's your right at the first place to be happy in your marriage, and also it's very important for your family health. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time, inshallah.